Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of you may be familiar with the interactive historical map that Beckwith Township has on their website. And in conjunction with that, they also have their driving tours of their heritage schoolhouses. This presentation, however, is kind of taking that a little bit a step further. What you may not know is Beckwith Tech Camp has actually created a video game associated with the Heritage School driving tour. And we've asked our Reeve Richard Kidd to come along to serve as our guide. And so we'd like to walk you through what our video game looks like. So we start off and we see within the driving tour, if you're familiar with it, you know that SS number 1, Gilley's Corner School, is the first school on the tour. And from the brochure that you receive while you're doing the tour, we also read that Gilley's Corners was a union school, meaning that it was attended by children from 2 neighboring townships. And in 1967, the school was sold and converted to a family home. You'll also know from the tour pamphlet that 1967 sale date was not unusual, because that's when the school boards amalgamated and Beckwith schools were really all closed at that point, and there was one central school, which is now known as Beckwith Public School, came into play. And so we thank Richard for taking us on this tour, and we're going to have him move us on to our next school. And as you can see, we've now moved into our second school on the tour, our SS number 2 Franktown School, which was open in 1824. A small stone school was built in 1848, making it the only stone school at that point prior to 1850. And Richard now takes us to our third school, which is the Cuckoo's Nest School. And in 1830, Robert Saunders and others decided to build the schoolhouse. This brick school was built. This brick school that you see in the picture was built in 1908 and closed in 1945 to become a private residence. All right, Richard, I think we're ready. Take us on to our next school. And our next one, we head down to Prospect. And in Prospect, we find that the stone school that's seen here was built in 1868. And once again, in that 1965 time frame, it became a private residence when it was closed. Where are we going next, Richard? Oh, so now we're headed down to the number 5 Elmstone School. And in 1822, the very first school in Beckwith Township was established by the Reverend George Buchanan, and you can find an historical plaque related to him in Franktown if you're driving through that area. The stone building that we see here was erected in 1873, again closed in 1966, but regrettably was struck by lightning in the 1980s, which burned its roof down, and it still stands today in this state. Very well-known school. And where are we headed next, Richard? Oh, we're headed toward the dairy now. So SS number 6, the dairy school. It was unknown when the original schools was constructed for it, but we do know that the third school was closed in 1869, and the building that you see in this picture was built in 1870, but then closed in 1945, where the students were then moved, I believe, down to the Prospect School, but I'm not entirely sure on that one. All right, Richard, let's go to our next one. And our next one is in Black's Corners, the number 7 Hillview School. And in 1868, this log building was erected and then later covered with siding. I know it doesn't look like log, but it is. And in 1867, It was closed and then converted into a sports center before it actually burned in 1974. And where are we headed next, Richard? Driving us along, crossing the bridge, and we are now at the Goodwood School. And the Goodwood School was built in 1825, and the original school was a log building at that time. In 1879, a stone building was erected a little bit east of that original site, and the frame building that you see here was replacing that stone building in 1901. And I think we're getting pretty close to the end of our tour. I think we've got 2 more to go. Richard, what's next? Oh, the number 9, the Ferguson School. So the Ferguson School was replaced in 1870, and it was located on the 11th line. And in 1919, there was another building that was erected, but when the schools were closed and sold off in 1965-66, the number 9 Ferguson School was actually demolished for the highway to be able to come through in terms of some of the additional lanes. So the house that you're seeing here is no longer standing. And then finally, our last school on the tour was the number 10 Scotch Corners, and you'll notice it also called it a Union School. And as we know from our first school, that means that there were students from a neighboring township that were also at Scotch Corners. In this case, it would have been Drummond. And the original school was a log building. Once again, this frame building was erected in 1872 and was closed in 1959. And so that brings us to the end of our tour. But if you do want to go and visit the various places, you can click right on this site here, and you will see that you are given the full information that is located on the township website. You'll notice that the information regarding the schools that you just read is located here, with some additional information that we didn't include within our video game. And then the driving tour itself is located right here. And you'll notice we simply went from 1 to 2, down to 3, to 4, to 5, to 6, to 7, to 8, to 9, and right up to 10. And so that completes our video game looking at the historical driving tour of Beckwith schools. We hope you take the time, especially during COVID, to go check them out, as you can certainly maintain your safe distancing, and hope you enjoyed this. Thank you very much. Bye.